Hi, Misha here, and felt like doing a video, kind of on vacation, as I pointed out, but this guy came in, the Darth Sidious from Revenge of the Sith, pointedly not called Sheev Palpatine, or Palpatine, and it is an all-new thing in the Black Series, and actually just kind of pre-ordered it a while back and forgot about it, and it came in, actually, a couple of weeks back now, just kind of didn't have the time or inclination to talk about him. So in my usual fashion, I'm just going to ramble on a very inconcise and inconsistent history-ish of Sheev Palpatine and the Chancellor and the Emperor and all that fun stuff and some comparisons. I don't know, just having fun, hanging out, probably making a bunch of unfunny dad jokes. What can you do? But at least he has like the dad finger. He is tisking. I don't know why, but I found this hand. I'm sure it's meant to be like a force hand, but to me it just seems like a tisking hand. So yeah, we'll go through his rise through politics and the Emperor and why he had to do what he did. Why not? No real thing here. Just hanging out on a Friday. So with that, let's go. Before he was Emperor, before he was Chancellor, even before he was Darth Sidious, he was Sheev Palpatine, or Palpatine, but never humble. Born in 84 BBY, so 84 years before the Death Star go boom. He was in a wealthy, connected family, although not really known for force sensitivity, and from a young age was groomed into politics by, well, what was Darth Plagueis, at least unbeknownst. But he was active by the age of 20 and already attending ceremonies in the 60s, and by 52 BBY he was a junior senator, and originally from his home planet of Naboo. Eventually he would grow to represent the entire sector, which was about 36 planets and large moons. So by 42 BBY or so, after a decade, he was quite influential. Of course, that was again Sheev of pizza roll fame. And of course, this figure isn't exactly of a younger version, a little older, but we're just happy to have this. And I just put a drink glass in his hand, although I doubt he would ever deign to actually drink it. Mos Eisley Cantina. But he would begin to know Jedi, and of course, in secret, was being trained as the Sith apprentice under Plagueis, rule of 2, and all that. But of course, Sith being Sith, he was doing his own things. Sometime in the 40s, mild-mannered Sheev, lover of democracy, essentially kidnapped and tortured a young Dathomirian child, creating Darth Maul. I don't know if we ever heard any other name besides Maul. Kind of odd. Typically, Darths are assumed names. And he was warped and twisted, and kind of goes to show a certain affinity for taking young children. But hey, don't worry, he wasn't actually a pedophile. He was just twisting him to the dark side, so it could have been worse. And of course, this is the original Darth Maul from the Black Series, although we do have a new one coming out finally. And he is his apprentice, even though he kind of promised Maul all the riches of being a Dark Lord of the Sith. He really just trained him as a thug, an assassin. And for a while, there were technically 3. You had Plagueis, and you had Sidious, and you had Maul. And it seems like Plagueis knew about Maul. It was kind of a thing. I don't think Plagueis necessarily knew that Sheev was going to kill him in his drunken stupor sleep, but he should have, because that's kind of how the Sith roll. It's kind of what they do. In fact, if you don't do that, you're kind of considered a failure. So, of course, this leads to the whole siege and blockade of Naboo in 32 BBY. And, of course, that's Palpatine's home planet, and he had orchestrated the whole Trade Federation, Newt Gunray's rise. We should get a figure of Newt Gunray. And I don't know if they really expected Maul to win or not win. I don't think it really mattered to them. But in the end, he was cut asunder and for many years was dead, but then was brought back, well, half brought back, and has made a lot more of a name for himself. That's okay. Some retcons are alright, but of course, old Sheev. And I love the little scoldy finger this figure has. Very, very palps of him. Even before the whole Naboo incident, he had already been meeting with various members of the Jedi Order and Jedi Council, and they were completely oblivious to him being a dark side user, including little old Yoda. Certainly by the time of Naboo, give or take, they had met and even worked together on various little projects. I love the scaling here of Yoda and Palpatine, or Sheev, or Darth Sidious, who's not a very big figure himself. But, yeah, their association goes quite a ways, as well as many other members of the council, all oblivious. Of course, the whole point of thousands, maybe even tens of thousands dying and hundreds of thousands losing their homes on Naboo was to go from being a senator, which I guess after 2 decades he was bored of, to becoming Chancellor. Not only did he seize Valorum's seat, which we don't have a figure of Valorum, he actually was his friend. At least, he's really good at that. And then he blindsided him and took over right after the whole Naboo crisis, becoming Chancellor. And I'm sure he will lay down power and absolutely not extend his term, because that's what people like that do. But what about his Sidious side? Obviously, Maul is, unbeknownst to us, cut in half in a reactor core. But, with Plagueis dead, can't have a rule of one, right? And, of course, Palps is a very social guy. He's got to have friends, and he had already been working on a new bestie in the form of, he was just Dooku at this point, Jedi Master, trainer of Qui-Gon, Grand Master to Obi-Wan, and Padawan of Yoda. And, I guess he liked the cut of his jib from the Lord of the Rings films. Notice how much taller he is, which is, accurate. And I think even older, but old Palps here had been in the ways of the Sith for a lot longer. And Dooku here was a great example of falling to the dark side through good intentions. And he also kind of broke Palps' mold of going for the young'uns. He apparently tried it old once. And the idea was he was an idealist and, kind of saw the corruption in the Republic. Corruption that Palpatine had been fostering. They had met all the way back in 42 BBY, but at that point, Dooku was still very much a Jedi. But right around the time of Naboo, he turned to the dark side by killing Yoda's either wife or sister or both. We don't get into the reproductive notions of Yoda's still unnamed species. So he was fertile ground and a master duelist, and would become essentially his puppet, known as Darth Tyrannus, but would adopt the moniker of Count Dooku because he had left the Jedi Order and became Count of Serenus, his home planet, and would be used to kind of orchestrate the next step because, he's Chancellor, but, it's too limiting for old Palps. Really, starting around 28 BBY and running up till 22 BBY, the next steps were setting up the CIS, the Separatists. The Trade Federation would be rejuvenated after the restrictions of Naboo, and the Geonosians would be brought on board, and the banking clans, and Techno-Union, and, of course, this was the guy to do it. and most thought he was the thing. Yeah, he's getting sleepy. Just lean on him. There we go. It's great. What a great duo they make. And, of course, the genesis of the Death Star would be here as well. In the old canon, the legends, the original canon. And that would lead to the Battle of Geonosis. And, of course, that would lead to him getting emergency war powers and the creation of the Grand Army of the Republic and the clones, which, of course, Lord Tyrannus, Darth Tyrannus himself, did after killing his best buddy in the Jedi Order, Sidious. So, what tangled webs we weave. And they get more tangly-er. Enter these two young strapping bucks, or as I know them, Mullet Man and Sandboy. Fun fact, Dooku actually was rather impressed with Obi-Wan, probably the Qui-Gon connection. And Sidious was not. He never really thought much about old Obi. Conversely, of course, little Annie, not quite as little, was his deal, and Tyrannus didn't think much of him, so they each kind of had their favorites. Guess which one was right? Surprise, both. But, yeah, these two. And, Palps is up to his old tricks again, grooming the youngins. But at least he's over 18 now, so that's something, right? But, the old man still has some miles left on him, so, yeah. It wasn't all Jedis and clones. We also had the Senate Guard. They started off rather civilian-looking and eventually turned into much more militarized things over time, especially with the wartime beginning in 22 BBY of the Clone Wars. I don't know why, but I've always liked this figure of the Blue Senate Guard. I like his rifle. It's a unique rifle to him, his cloak. I just thought it'd be fun to put them together real quick. And, once again, Sheev is noticeably shorter. And also leaning forward, sorry. But my table is slightly slanted forward, so they tend to do that. But, yeah, I just thought it would be a neat little thing there, the Senate Guard. Because, of course, at this point, he's still playing at being the meek politician that will hand over power after the war, and absolutely definitely is not a Force user, even though the Jedi Council knows that there's a dark side user out there. But, of course, it's probably Tyrannus, right? So for 4 more years, he does his thing and does try to recruit Obi-Wan. But then this young buck comes back, and no, I don't have the Revenge of the Sith Anakin, although they'll probably re-release him. So we get Doofy, I Hate Sand version. But of course, he took off Anakin's hand/forearm. So, Anakin returned the favor of taking off both of his hands and eventually much of the rest of him in 19 BBY on board the Invisible Hand. And I don't believe that old Count Dooku quite saw that coming. Again, Sith people should probably see some killing going on. It had been way too long. He had been an apprentice for well over a decade, and that's just not going to fly. But of course, we got this guy. And of course, the war is continuing on. The Outer Rim sieges in its last year, clones, bots, General Grievous, and by this point, even the rather thick Jedi Council is starting to notice maybe something isn't quite right. And speaking of, here are some. By this point, the Sith, i.e. Palpatine, playing the Jedi like a fiddle. Even the Council. I'm sure nothing will happen to them. We don't have the full Council, far from it. But, hey, we finally got this dude. It's actually a pretty cool figure. That happened. Oh, well. She needs to put on more clothes. I'm going to tell you this right now. That's why I actually gave her a cloak. She kind of needs it, I thought. And then we got this guy here who, come on, if someone was going to survive, he's a fan favorite. But, Revenge of the Sith didn't end up working out too well. By the way, hot take here, but all the Jedi should come with some type of cloak, in my opinion, because otherwise you just get a lightsaber, which is neat, but they've always been kind of light on accessories. Again, I'm sure nothing at all will happen to them, right? So yada, things happen, and Sandboy, through a weird series of events, tells his best bud, the dude from Black Snake Moans, or Snake on a Plane, or some other Snake movie, that gasp, the Chancellor is a Sith. Who could have guessed it? And so he's told to go up and stay in his room while the adults do their thing. Also sit in his very small chair. Yeah, I'm sure that won't have any consequences. And he's going to get a posse together and go pay a casual visit, like you do. So old Mace, Kit Fisto, and a couple other no-names that don't matter because they die like punks immediately come to visit. And we also don't have figures of them, so yeah, CZ10 and Ian Cole, or Ethkoth Cole. Pay a visit, and then the saber measuring happens. Yeah, the laser swords come out. Good times. So we've seen the Jedi many times, including Sam Jackson's pimpin' purple saber, and Fisto's, green? I guess I understand why he doesn't come with a cloak. Would be a little hard. But making its debut, Sidious goes full Darth. Sidious' saber is pretty cool, and this is the first time we actually get it in the Black Series. It's a small, little, elegant thing. Very suiting for him. And then he proceeds to do old man gymnastics. Keep in mind, at this point, he is in his 60s. So, yeah, not a youngin'. Like I said, the first two masters pretty much just croak without getting a lick in, if I'm being honest. And old Fisto, named after a sex robot from New Vegas, gets his ass handed to him not long after. So, sucks to be a squid man. By the way, it is kind of neat that the Kit Fisto one does have like a little force hand, but I think interchangeable hands would have been kind of neat for the Jedi. Oh, they never really do that. Anyway, he dead. Now, this here Mace Windu is a relatively old figure, and the articulation's not bad. But one benefit of Sidious here being a 2024 release and a new mold is he is quite flexible. And in some figures it doesn't really matter because they don't really do much acrobatics. But, for a nearly pension age man, he gets a lot done. And of course, a lot of it's hidden under these robes. They're pretty solid. Jointed hands. And it's kind of interesting to me that they did go with the plastic cloak over the head or head thing. I think alternative head would have been kind of neat with this guy. Maybe pre and post Sith face. But oh well. And the legs move about as well as you can hope for with the cloak. He does have pantaloons, just for anyone who cares. But yeah, he's got pretty good bendy for a modern one. They're all single joint pinless nowadays. And he does have rotations and, I don't really do things. In fact, this is about as weird and nerdy as I can be, and I have my reasons for just chilling today. But if for people who do dioramas and stuff, I would imagine there's quite a bit you can do. His hand is pretty good with the saber. It's a little small, and since I had a cup in it earlier, it's a little stretched out, but not too bad. So he had his little pointy hand. So they're pretty much even Steven dueling until old Sandboy, who just can't make up his goddamn mind, walks in, and I'm sure it'll go great for everyone involved. If old Annie hadn't come in, would Sam Jackson have beat Ian over here? I like to think so. But of course, he does bust out with a little bit of an unfair advantage and, gets to do some blackmailing too. First, we go single lightning hand, but, he's no chump, not his first rodeo, so he blocks it. I'm not sure how a saber blocks force lightning, but, hey, you do you. By the way, getting his hand off was actually quite difficult. I hadn't brought it off before, but it's a good fit. And then after old Mace disarms him, not literally, fair and square, he goes to dual lightning hands. And is he playing at being weak? Is he actually weak? Who knows? With the side of his hand, here's his saber. Again, it's kind of a neat little design. Of course, it has the removable blade like any of them. And you can see just how relatively slim and elegant it is. Very different from most of you Jedis. But, of course, old Sandboy has to intervene here. I mean, the black cloak would have probably been a tip-off, frankly, to Sam Jackson. Look, Windu, I know it would have been tough to listen to his whinging all those years, but you probably should have. Yeah, and I wonder if his thought was, what are you doing with that saber? Followed by what I like to call, hey, I was using that hand. And then he goes flying out a window, which definitely, come on, let's be honest. If being cut in half and thrown down a reactor shaft didn't kill Maul, yeah, that didn't kill Windu. I do kind of wish he came with a stub, removable hand and stub. That would be, the Black Series needs more dismemberment. This guy would definitely give it to you as well. So yeah, out the window, Windu goes. Followed by a naming ceremony. Not sure if it was quite appropriate, but then again, he's the most incelled father I've ever met, so there you go. Also, the statement of, hey, could you put those away now? That'd be great. And of course, arise Darth Vader, yada yada. From all the memes from Attack of the Clones, this part of the Revenge of the Sith is infinitely quoted and clipped and frankly beloved. Who wouldn't? Which is why it's great to have this version of Sidious. But seriously, let's put the Sith jazz hands away. And it's this point that Anakin really, or Darth Vader, really should realize that he just fell for the good old bait and switch. Well, I mean, who's surprised? At least put the hands away. They are neat, though. I'm glad this figure did come with the Palpatine Sidious lightning hands. I like that the hands themselves are part of the lightning versus like sticking them on like weird gloves. You almost had to do it. So yeah, for once at least we get some extra accessories with this guy. The cloak and these and the two-piece saber. Pretty good, frankly. And of course at this point he sends Vader off to play and his old little green friend Frank Oz, who acts way too smug in calling him Darth Sidious, even though he was fooled for like 20 years. So okay, little guy, you might be losing a little bit of your edge. Also, hey, for once, there's someone bigger than Sheev on the stage, because pretty much everyone is taller than him. And we get to see more Yoda-batics. And we get to find out that Sheev actually had not one, but two sabers, apparently. Yeah, thanks, Kit Fisto. You had one job. But don't worry, Yoda's bringing his game too. It's not the size of your saber, it's what you do with it. And yeah, we get another hippy-hoppy Yoda scene. Yeah, there's some lightning too, but those hands are kind of hard to get in and out, so I'm not going to do it a bunch. Yay. Little Yoda saber. Now this isn't a two-piece, kind of understandable why. It'd be way too tiny. So, then they do a little floating thing around the Senate, and yeah, Yoda hops around a lot. Look, did this duel make sense? Did its resolution make a whole lot of sense? No. Come on. You'd be lying if you said you didn't want to see the Emperor and Yoda, who we didn't even know if they'd even known each other in the original trilogy, cross sabers. And it's kind of nice that they established that Yoda will saber fight on occasion in Attack of the Clones. Got a little flying Yoda. I don't know. I find it amusing. This saber actually came from the Grogu set. And this Yoda, which is shockingly flexible for as small as it is, came from the Dagobah set. I bought both on deep sale on Amazon. They were like supposed to be $50, and they were like $22 each. So, yeah. And this guy, Sheev, Palp's pizza roll guy, or the Emperor at this point, are about to be. He's a regular edition figure too, so he's not a deluxe. A lot of fun. And of course, as kind of dictated by the original trilogy, it has to end in a draw. But I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't maybe want to set one of these up in a little display. I think they are coming out with prequels Yoda too, but to be fair, how much did he really change? He was a small, withered, wrinkly green guy that resembled Einstein. Of course, the Emperor here went through some rather unfortunate facial changes after his battle with Windu, so there's that. Again, I get why they did the plastic hood, but I have a couple of opinions on it. And of course, Yoda here has a cloth. He actually holds the saber quite well. There's a lot of fun to be had, and that's all this is really about, guys. But after this, yeah, he's uncontested Emperor towards the end of the year 19 BBY. So, after careful consideration, Sheev decides he doesn't want to give up power after all. You understand, right? And these guys have turned into these guys. That's actually why I brought them out. The Emperor's Royal Guard is a much older figure, and actually one of the better ones I think the Black Series has done. And if the articulation's not completely fantastic, who cares? They just kind of stand there. It's definitely better than the original Kenner. Trust me, they were pretty much immobile. Of course, whatever happened to that young sand boy? We don't know, but this strapping, again, much taller gentleman appears. And yeah, Vader is Vader as we know it. And of course, he's got a saber, so Sheev doesn't have to. And yeah, he's planning to do the same thing to him that he did with Maul and Dooku, kind of upsetting the traditions of the rule of two and outliving them all. But he definitely dies in 4 ABY. Definitely. He fell down a reactor shaft, and then it exploded, and we saw him explode. He definitely did not live. And as we close out, we got to compare the new Darth Sidious from 19 BBY to Emperor Palpatine. He was actually called Palpatine in the credits from 4 ABY. This is the second issue, and he comes with a stick. To be fair, yeah. And there was the deluxe version that came with the lightning hands. I don't have him, although they are re-releasing him, so there's that. But this guy has lightning hands without, but I don't think they're interchangeable. I think because this is a much older figure, the pegs are a little different. The height seems about right for each other. Yep, here they are together. Now here's the question. Who would win? Old man Emperor or slightly not as old man Chancellor? The original version of the Emperor actually had a hard cloak. And here they're kind of splitting the difference. I get it because the way the hangs. On the other hand, you can actually see his full, beautiful face and hair. I guess he had hair. Did we ever see it in Return of the Jedi? I don't think so. He'll just whack you with his stick. Scream at stormtroopers to get off his yard. And final comparison with Vader. Yeah, Vader is considerably taller. Especially if you were to hunch the Emperor over. And Vader has very long skirts, but don't tell him. So what do you think? Like I said, I needed to have some fun, so this seemed like a good idea. Probably wasn't. Who knows? Oh well. Hope you had fun a little bit. So the 2024 Darth Sidious. I normally don't care about extra heads, but I could see an extra for this one being useful. But I wasn't even sure we were going to get these. I knew we'd at least get his specific special saber. I know some would say they'd like a swooshy thing or some other little force effects, but I'm sure looking at them they look good, but just feeling them when you're blind, yeah, they're not really that impressive. The pretty much full-size body wrap, and like I said, he does have pantaloons and such under it. It's not just like a blank mold. I'm just not sure about the head thing. I know why they did it for the hang. It's probably one of those things that probably looks a lot better than it feels to me. But no, it's nice to have this. I really would like to see more separatist things. Geonosian, Nuke Gunray, something else, Techno-Union maybe just for fun. But hey, this is a one that I'm surprised it has taken this long, but at least they didn't just reuse the Emperor mold and just, change it ever so slightly. At least we did get something new and different, so even has more pointy shoes. Anyway, guys, hope everyone's doing well. This is Misha. Catch you very soon next time.